Hello and welcome back to Primal Pod and Cast, brought to you by the Arc of E Network. My name is Noah, and back with me once again is my intrepid co-host, Mr. Mikey Chappell. Say hello, Mikey.
Hey there.
We are back to talk about Season 2, Episode 7, entitled The Colossus. And this might be a spoiler, but I think this is technically The Colossus Part 1, because I think I saw next week is called The Colossus Part 2. Even though this was not listed that way initially. So anyways, lots to talk about. We pick up right where we left off. And this was yet another brutal affair tinged with quite a bit of sadness. That's become a running theme of this season. So before we dive into the minute by minute, just overall, how you feeling? Because we were a little... Of course, last episode we talked about the Primal theory and Vidar combined together. And so we're firmly like back in the swing of our narrative. And I get the feeling that like I don't see us diverting again. There's 3 left for the season. I think we're on a particular track now. Definitely given where this one ends. So how you feeling, bud?
Emotionally compromised and very excited. At the same
Which
time,
is pretty much how we end every week of this show.
Yeah.
Emotionally compromised and vaguely excited about what's to come.
It just keeps getting better. As far as a viewer getting put through the gamut of stuff. I like movies and TV that challenge me to
absolutely
stick it out, Yeah. And not that it's a challenge, sometimes it's just hard to watch. Sense,
it's definitely I wonder if I'd be curious to know if there's a contingent of the fan base, if anybody's tapped out this season, where it's like, hey, I was enjoying the fun, brutal, like visceral, primordial, crazy story we had going there, and
my emotions,
and now I'm now I'm more invested than most like hour-long dramas, and I don't know how to deal with that.
And they do a better job at telling stories in 20 minutes than
oh my God, dude. The amount of stuff they pack in. So I'm right there with you. It was another one that put us through the ringer and also ends on a cliffhanger where I'm like, all right, well, this is kind of ending where what was that, episode 3 did before we came into before we came into 4, which was, the roughest one still, I think, of the series, but this, they keep trying to give it a run for its money. All right. So we've got our heroes, Mira, Spear, and Fang. They're camped out with the eggs, and they decide they probably need to make a move. They've got the ship pretty much patched up from their previous encounter. Mira's got it loaded up, but it's like, all right, am I gonna have to go it alone, or like, are you guys coming? What's going on? And they got to figure out how to coax Fang onto the boat. So that was a little bit of like, little lightness to open the episode. A little bit of comedy, which is always very, very welcome, I would say. Of course, that is juxtaposed with the birth / the death and rebirth of the Colossus. We can now just give him a name, I suppose. So I like that we did reference this in the last episode, but it's like, how was he not dead after that huge fall from the sky? And like, he just kind of pops back up and then finds Eldar. But I like that. Oh no, he does succumb to his wounds like immediately in the opening of this. And you get the Valkyries coming in, which I don't know about you, but I was like, dude, is this what, like, in the same way that Samurai Jack did, like, the final season that's all super adult and like different art style and like way more brutal and like definitely TVMA. Looking at these Valkyries, I was like, dude, this is like adult Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
Like I could see the design set up for like if you wanted to do like college age
Yeah.
Powerpuff Girls.
That's always fun too to see the expansion of an artist's idea,
Yes.
like hints of it in his past work, and then watching it come full force this way. I was like, oh, okay.
Well,
He's
and dude, the fan theories are running absolutely wild for what we're about to get to. And I don't know if any of this hit for you during the episode. It honestly didn't occur to me until after the fact. And I'm like, if it's just a vague homage, that's maybe more where I want it to stay. But anyways, okay. So the Valkyries are coming in. He's presumably going to Valhalla as far as we know, but then he gets ripped down to an
yeah,
underworld. And then we finally see the dude I've been waiting to show up
yeah.
all season. I don't know what we're calling him.
That was my
Satan
first
Man,
thought. I was like,
devil
oh,
horns, whatever. But he looks like the vague shape of like if we were doing Aku from Samurai Jack
yeah,
in a different incarnation. He has the vague shape. He's extremely tall and he's got the crown horn sort of thing
yeah.
going on. He's the mostly black, mostly shrouded in shadow. But anyways, he kills the Viking and then he is reborn as the Colossus. Okay. Pretty badass and intimidating. I was like, okay, I'm definitely worried. And we talked about this last episode. I was like,
Yep.
maybe that's where this is going. He's going to get imbued with some sort of power. Sure enough. But yeah, as soon as I saw him, and I was worried, definitely
Yeah.
worried. So, uh, but yeah, people are already they're like, dude, is it connected to Samurai Jack? Because there is a I forget what season it is, but there's an episode where a fallen Viking uh gets turned into I think a colossus of some sort or just like a crazy dude by Aku. And the idea that like Aku is this figure who sent out emissaries to do his bidding. He always had like these little mini bosses essentially. And it's like, what if everything that Spear and Fang have encountered up to this point is like he is the end game,
Yeah.
the be all end all. Maybe this guy is trying to find like the most badass warrior in all the land, essentially. But he presents we'll call him the Colossus now, with Spear and Fang in like a little flame or
Yeah.
image sort of thing. And we're like, okay, so he's offering him the chance at revenge, but it's like, is that to his own ends or is that just I think we're still it's like, okay, but what is this character's interest in Spear and Fang? I don't know.
Either way,
So
it's a really interesting like arc because it just implies that their existence goes beyond their own physical world. It's just like
yeah,
what implications does this pair have for the universe at large? Like why are they important enough to render some lord of the underworld to task somebody with taking them out?
yeah. I think I mean ultimately, and people they're mesmerized later on the ship after they're captured and imprisoned. Not to fast forward, but again, you've seen the episode. Everybody's seen it, hopefully, that's listening to this. Um, when he's able to kind of quell Fang for a moment,
Yeah.
there's always this moment whenever the more civilized people encounter this that it's like, oh my God, this wild beast of a man has a kinship with this huge creature that we could never fathom like
Yeah.
taming, bringing into our society. And so I do wonder if it's like we talked about, it's like, is he that bridging of the gap between this like modern man, which we get more and more of, like,
Yep.
dude, there's Egyptians in this now, I guess, like vaguely Babylonian,
Yep.
or yeah, oh my God, we'll get to all of that. But uh yeah, a lot. Again, the amount of like world building and just expansion that they have so much they can flesh out,
Yeah.
that nothing has felt rushed. It's all just
Mhm.
these nice little hints at like, oh my God, there's so much more out there. So okay, they they get on the ship. Eventually they run into this massive, like, really, really cool looking vessel. And then kind of a smaller fleet. A battle ensues. And in the midst of this, the Colossus shows up. Now, I was initially confused because I was like, wait, is this just a big giant guy that these people had with them? Or is this the dude we just saw transformed?
I was curious
Because
to your take on that because I was also like, I'm
were
not
you
sure
a
if this
little
is, yeah, I'm
okay?
not sure if it's the same guy.
Okay. Well, I was like, do I need to go back and rewatch it? I'm not quite sure. But he shows up with that army. The other
Yeah.
thing was the perspective when he like when we first see him birthed, the what I'm referring to as the Colossus before we get to this guy. But again, if there's a part two, maybe that's the whole thing is we are on the right track.
Yeah.
This is just a big dude from this
Mhm.
Egyptian like culture.
Yeah.
And we still haven't seen like the full on like in
Yeah.
daylight version of whatever the Viking turned into.
Yeah.
Maybe that is next week. I'm not quite sure. But okay, I'm glad you were a little confused as well because I was like, did I miss something?
Yeah.
I guess they're saying that's him. But yeah, the way he showed up with uh with the army led me to believe I was like, no, this is just another big
Yeah.
guy.
Because I would expect that first encounter with said Colossus to be a lot more, I guess, dramatic than that. Just because of the way that
Yes.
they tell their stories. You know, you have a higher expectation for what they're gonna do with a big reveal like that. And
And
it felt like, yeah,
there's nothing visually connecting him to the
yes,
previous version of him. And
exactly.
there's not so therefore there's nothing to connect him in Spear or Fang's
Yeah,
eyes as like that's the dude we were
yeah.
just fighting. So
And also, how would you
yes,
feel to be turned to this Colossus and then just immediately captured, imprisoned, and used as a fighter? Like that,
yes.
it
And
seems
again, I
like it.
think he's
Yeah,
got to be way bigger, right?
yeah,
Again, like the scale of this guy, I was like,
mhm,
no, it
yeah,
that's not the same dude, right? So more on that later, I guess. More on that next week for confirmation. But regardless, this Colossus, this giant, if you will, I don't know how else to put it. It kills one of the babies, man.
yep. They had to animate it too. They had to just
Oh, it
make
was
it a
so brutal.
fetus.
And of course, I'm sitting
Yeah,
there going like, "Oh, Spear's gonna grab it at the last second, right?" Or I'm also like, "Oh, the shell's gonna break," and like it was about to be birthed right at that moment, and it's like, it's no,
nope.
no. And I audibly, I was just like, no. It was like I was bereft. I was genuinely
Yeah,
like, God damn it! In the midst of all of this, it snuck up on me. But again, three eggs, and we're like,
yep.
nope. I wanted to ask you about that as well. So later on the ship, after they've been in prison, the female leader of the Egyptians, whatever we're calling them right
Yeah.
now, um, she has one of the eggs.
Hmm.
There's two left, right?
Yes.
As far as we know.
Yep.
Okay. Do we know where that second one is? Does she have both of them?
It was never really confirmed. I think I like my idea is that they probably just brought down one as just to show that it's a bargaining chip. But at the same time, if there's only one, that implies that they're keeping another one somewhere because it's in their best interest to have as many dinosaurs on your side as possible,
Right. Yeah.
which is revealed later in the episode when, yeah, we'll get to it. But
Oh man.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So they're taken in. Mira is put in a slave quarters with um an interesting array of female slaves that look,
yep.
some of them look way more modern than you would expect, I guess,
Yeah,
which was interesting. So maybe more on that next week as well. But yeah, shortly thereafter, I mean, there is this tension of like, okay, whenever the gates are finally up, like they're gonna get to fight this guy and like take their revenge. But basically the gates go up and they're on the shores and they're like they're basically soldiers for hire now at this point, or like for
yeah,
not even for hire, they're like forced slave soldiers, a slave army. And yeah, dude, they roll out onto this beachhead and there's fucking elephants, bro. It's like all of a sudden it's Return to the King.
yep.
And I'm just like, okay, I can get down with this. I love Fang biting the Achilles heel
Yep.
on one of them. That was brutal. Uh,
It's the Star Wars takedown.
yeah, dude. I
Just
mean,
go for the legs.
Spears run up and like just there's a great split second, like maybe my favorite shot of the episode, but when he comes like immediately up onto the I guess the saddle
Yep.
where there's like three dudes and immediately goes and spears directly into one. That was just satisfying.
Yeah. The multi-hit
It
combos that keep animating are so good.
Yes, dude.
That's
They
probably the most fun in the writers' room. Just like, all right, how are we going to get A to B? Man.
Absolutely, dude. And it was nice, honestly, uh, after all of the emotional weight of some of the human on human fighting that we've
Yes.
seen recently to finally be able to at least get back into that space of like, this is just badass, dude.
Yep.
This is cool. They gotta fight. It's a
Right.
war right now. Like, I don't know who to root for
Mhm.
on these sides. I'm just rooting
Yeah.
for our heroes. So like,
Yep.
here we go. But yeah, dude, and they go to town for a little bit, and then they're about to roll into kind of like the main part of the city, and then they're just roaring and freaking out, and it reminds me of the end of so many episodes where it's just
Yep.
like ah, and then cut to credits, and
Yep.
we'll see what happens next week.
I was
So,
legitimately surprised at the credits this time because I was so in it.
oh, same, dude.
You
I
know,
was,
like,
I knew it was creeping up on me, and I was like,
yeah,
oh, dude, they're not. I
yeah,
was like, they're not going to get to like a final battle in this episode. I
yeah,
was like, when are they going to stop it? But oh, so much good stuff. I knew we were gonna lose one of those babies. As soon as it was three and not two, I was like,
exactly.
they're only setting it up so that
Yeah,
they can take
one of
one
you
out.
is going to be a sacrificial pawn
Yes.
to like mess with me
Oh man.
specifically.
Yeah. Uh. So yeah, like we said, I think there is yet another Colossus to deal
Yeah,
with. The real Colossus
yeah,
has yet to show his face. I think this is just a big guy. It's just
yeah.
like a
That's
big Egyptian fighter,
I don't.
gladiator. I don't know.
Given the history of just the talent of storytelling that they have, I can't believe that that's how they would introduce him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think the scale matches. And
no,
again, I think yeah, again, because they do kind of pay attention to the rough logic of it. It's like he
yeah,
would be on their trail by
yeah,
that point for sure. Um, well, maybe not as well because they're on that beachhead for a bit before they get out to sea.
yeah,
We see him and we don't know. I mean, dude, once the magical demon god is at play, it's like, dude, maybe we're in portal
yeah.
territory where he's just like he can drop in anywhere. I don't know. But
Yeah, but would he be immediately captured and used for,
I don't think so at all. That's where it
exactly.
doesn't hang
That's
together. So
yeah.
I don't think we've seen him yet. Maybe I should go check out the teaser for next week. But uh yeah, any other thoughts or speculation?
I'm just ready to see what's happening next. I thought it was the like you said earlier, the world building that they managed to just cram into these episodes without making it overwhelming is so impressive.
Yeah.
Because every episode has just been like a new challenge and progressively introducing more and more different civilizations that keep kind of making you question the timeline. And we know it's a
Yeah.
fantasy and that's all well and good, but it just seems like they're building towards something where it's like the world is so quickly developing around you and you had no idea. Where were you at the point? Like where were
Right.
Spear and Fang while all this stuff was happening? Because all like it all must have been going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
Right. So like where are they from?
Yeah. And again, how like the more fantastical elements of as far as creatures go that we've seen
Yep.
throughout the history of the show, the civilized world, what is their relationship to that stuff? Is
Yeah.
it something that they beat back like eons ago and like they have never encountered it because of this huge expanse between them? Like we don't know how big these oceans are. I
Nope.
do love that in the middle traveling sequence, we again get that nighttime, like the stars reflected.
Yep.
Just gorgeous stuff, man.
Yep.
A lot. I mean, throughout this episode, but lot of great like still frames from a combat standpoint and from just that's just gorgeous to look at. That's just a pretty picture.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Um, oh, I wanted to bring this up because last week we kind of I was ruminating on like how do you think Mira is feeling about the babies, the eggs, Spears' clear devotion to that and like
Yeah.
protective nature. And there was that moment when she loads up the boat in this one, and I was like, is she like again, is she if push came to shove, is she saying like I'm leaving whether you're coming or not? And she seemed like relieved when Spear decided to come along
Yep.
and like brought Fang along as well. But I was kind of like, she clearly doesn't have, I don't think, the same level of attachment. And again, I still think that's something to look out for where that might be a tension point down the road
Yeah.
where
I think
somebody's got to make a choice.
it feels a lot like maternalistic survival.
Mm-hmm.
Like I care about you, and obviously I have certain intellectual advantages when it comes to that. So I feel like a lot of like even a lot of her reactions within the story just feel more about protection than attachment, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But also they're also combat capable that it's really hard to tell because
Mm-hmm.
like all emotions go out the door when things are threatened, and then it's just here we go,
Yeah.
ready to fight.
Oh man. I think we're in for a lot of fighting next week.
Yeah. Well,
Probably like another nonstop battle
yeah.
sort of
Well, they stop
scenario.
mid-fight, and again, the way that these episodes open, they waste no time. So I imagine that part two is just going to be the next second
Yeah,
after we left off.
absolutely.
Did you notice the little baby cheetah cub thing that the guy was carrying out?
I don't know if I caught that. What
Yeah, there
guy?
was the I guess he looked like some sort of leader of the city that they were attacking.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
yeah, and he comes out holding just like a baby wild cat. And I don't know if that's important or not. I don't know why it stuck with me. Probably just because I saw a baby get murdered by a Colossus. But I'm curious.
I need to go back
Yeah.
and look at that shot.
Yeah.
Another, as far as smaller animals go, there was the moment early in the episode with the turtle and the bird
Oh
that
yeah.
Spear is watching, and
Mhm.
I thought that was some nice little
Yeah.
symmetry because we got the crazy snapping turtle in
Mhm.
episode one, I think,
Yep.
of this season.
Yep.
Uh, and we had, of course, the crazy birds, the vultures from the previous episode. So I just thought that was a nice little touch.
And not looking good for our avian friends.
No, not at all. Uh, oh man, dude, we've been to sea, we've met Vikings, we've seen Egyptians, Babylonians.
Yeah.
What, what? I mean, the big thing that's on the table, and again, now that they've teased it, or not, it's again, it's not a tease. Again, it's just like a more of an Easter egg thing to me than anything else. It's just, you know, keeps it all in the same Tartakovsky universe, but it
Yeah.
doesn't have to ever be like, this is
Yeah.
Samurai Jack to me. But we've got to see like an ancient, like a feudal Asian civilization of some
Yeah.
kind with like samurai or ninjas or
I feel
something
like
of that
we're
ilk.
2 episodes
Like,
away from a gun. Like
oh,
a
dude.
firearm is happening soon.
Yeah, dude. And again, it was interesting incorporating them into the primal theory and
Yeah.
just thinking about like
Yeah.
how that would operate. Because again, that is kind of the
Yep.
killer, if you will, the
Yeah.
ultimate spear killer is
Mhm.
the introduction of firearms. Like he is
Yep.
such a savage dude, but it's like,
Yeah.
but yeah, once you introduce that, like it would be kind of fascinating to see how he would deal with that.
Yeah. And I went back and rewatched the Primal Theory episode
Yeah.
just see how I felt about it. And one thing I didn't notice was when they are fighting that insane dude from the asylum, the weaponry that they use from room to room slowly devolves till they get to the spear.
Yeah.
So it starts with,
Firearms
they have the
or like
firearm
pretty
that,
big firearms down to
yeah,
pistols, except yeah.
yeah. And I thought that was an interesting concept. And I feel like, I don't know, my crazy fan theory is that we're working up to that point because at this point, like they're having moments of relative danger where the stakes are very high and you don't know, but Spears always come out on top. However, every single weapon used against him is something that is within his canon.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And then now, like, they keep raising the stakes, so I can only imagine there's going to be something that we see it and we're like, oh, if he's hit, he's dead. Like the level of
and to that point, something we talked about a little bit last episode was a possible endpoint with these characters. That doesn't necessarily have to be death, but could maybe actually be a hopeful, happy ending where it's just like, oh, they find a safe place to like live as this weird, crazy Flintstones family that's half dinosaur, half human.
Exactly.
So with that in mind, I was encouraged by the time we keep spending with the Viking father, who is transformed now. When we're in those sequences, to me, I'm like, I would just watch this. Like, if this was the show, I would kind of be just as compelled. It's like I'm not sitting there the whole time going like, okay, but where is Spear and Fang? When we're in the universe that we've kind of established. Again, primal theory notwithstanding, when we're in our world that we're used to, I'm kind of fine going wherever we want to. It's like one of my favorite episodes, the Coven of the Damned from season 1. Spear and Fang's story literally stops. And it's like we do dive back in. It's essentially a flashback episode, but we're doing it all through the purview of this new character. And I remember that being an episode where I'm like, I really dig this. Like, I'd be fine if we like went off and explored this little subculture for a bit. So, to that point, I'm just like, maybe I could see like we get to a point where it's like, okay, we can say goodbye to Spear and Fang and Mira and like, but here's some new characters within this universe and now they're on their adventure. Or we come back next season and it's like, we've kind of scaled up the timeline a little bit to maybe like, the 1300s or something. I don't know. But I definitely think my level of investment is there for that. I'm still a little wary of moving too far outside of the Primal universe, if you will. But
exactly. My hot take is I don't want there to be an extended universe just because I'm kind of exhausted out of it. Like it's a cool little Easter egg, but I feel like it's been done so many times now in the sense that like it's exciting to think about, like, oh, maybe this is part of this or it's connected to this, but it's just been so just inundated in media culture now since Marvel had all that success with it that I'm just like, all right, let just this one thing be one thing.
And that's why I think, again, to me, it's nods to, if you're a fan of his stuff, he's just kind of like, he's just giving you a little wink and a nod to like some of the previous series. And it's like, it's there if you want to indulge in it, but
it's great, but it does make me nervous a little bit.
And understandably so. It's like, again, I want Samurai Jack showing up and like fighting with Spear, or do I want Spear falling into a time portal and showing up in like 2053 or something? Like, no, I don't want that either. So
I mean, now that you say it out loud, it does seem pretty cool.
I would watch that episode. Don't get me wrong, we would probably have some varying takes on it, but I would watch that episode.
Oh no doubt,
for sure. What else you been watching, dude? Do you have time for anything this week?
So it's been a combination of rewatching Friday Night Lights and
nice.
Caught the new Game of Thrones episode. So 2 of House of the Dragon.
You're feeling pretty good about it still?
I am, actually. Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, so apparently I just read this article that said it had like episode 1 had like one of the highest HBO streaming viewerships.
It's like just shy of 10 million, if I'm not mistaken, which is very good for.
In episode 2 had more.
Oh, awesome. So I think again, there's probably a lot of people like me who were like, I'm going to wait a second. And I think what they're going to also find is a lot of people like me who, as soon as they can binge the whole thing, are going to catch up probably in like 8 or 9 weeks.
Yeah.
But
I think that makes sense. But I'm getting very strong like season 1 of Game of Thrones energy, not necessarily in obviously it's in the same universe, but in terms of my own personal reaction to it, I find myself now that I've gone through it and said, okay, got rid of all my previous expectations and things like that. I'm in. Like I think they've set themselves up to go some very interesting places in the story, and it's that OG Game of Thrones excitement about it.
Okay.
So I'm invested in the
That
characters. I think everybody's doing a great job, and I kind of want to see where it goes.
that's very encouraging. So I look forward to checking it out. Are you going to muddy the waters and try and follow that and Rings of Power at the same time, which starts this Friday?
I was more excited about Rings of Power. Excuse me.
So, oh, you're all good.
I choked
Um,
on my eyes.
so are
Um,
you gonna dive in to that one immediately, or are you gonna wait for that to again,
it
completely different universes, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Some people are like, I don't want to watch two drug related crime shows at
yeah,
one time. So I can't watch Ozark and
yeah,
rewatch Breaking Bad at the
yeah.
same time. You know what I'm saying?
That's I
Like,
actually didn't think of it that way, but I was going to start it, but I have a really big stats final coming up on Monday, so I think I might just take a break and get to it
I
on Tuesday.
wonder if they are going, I don't think they've announced one way or the other, but I wonder if they're going to do the usual Amazon thing, which is we give you three to like
Yeah,
get you hooked
they're
and then
going
it goes
to
week to week. Two,
yes,
I guess makes sense
two.
because they're probably
Mhm.
going to be pretty big. I would
Yeah,
assume like full on hour to hour plus episodes.
yeah,
So
and it's coming out on like Friday too, right?
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, there's also another little show that comes out on Friday, and that would be season 5 of Cobra Kai, which I don't know if you're familiar with our coverage of said show around these parts, but
I've been doing
it's
that thing where everybody's recommending it to me. I think it's going to be another Game of Thrones. I didn't like get into Game of Thrones until like 2 years
yeah.
after it already been on the
Oh,
air,
same.
and
Yeah,
like
I
everybody
caught up
kept
when
telling
season
me,
3 was airing. Yeah.
yeah, and everybody kept telling me to watch it, and I was just like, but I also don't have the same. It's the same reason that I'm not a huge fan of Stranger Things. I respect it for that; it's a good show, but like that nostalgia was just ever so slightly before my time, so it doesn't hit with the same magic. I think it's great. I like caught the last season after not watching a bunch of it, and I was like, oh, this is still like a very entertaining, good show. It's just it was a little bit overhyped. So when I went into it, I had all these super high expectations, and even though it was great, I was expecting something to like hit a little bit harder, I suppose.
I
And
feel
it's
you.
just it's same thing with Cobra Kai. Like I like the Karate Kid, but it was a little bit before.
See,
Yeah,
I don't know. It always feels weird when I tell people this because they look at me askance, but basically like when they announced again, everybody who's listened to me and Gavin talk about this is like, shut up. Like we know the history. But when they announced the show, I was like, there's no way this is going to be good. And it was the first thing I usually am like, I hate toxic fandom. And I'm just like, guys,
yeah,
calm down about
right.
everything. But Karate Kid kind of is my Star Wars. That sounds weird to
Uh,
say to people, but like I take the original trilogy and next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank, but particularly the original trilogy, if you will, of Karate Kid parts
yeah,
1, 2, and 3, uh, as like a sacred text to me in my childhood. Like I loved them to death, particularly the third one, which is
yeah.
one of those movies that like when I realized everybody else like they thought that was a bad movie, like it wasn't well reviewed at the time, and like
Mhm.
people don't stick up for that one. And I was like, wait, movies can be bad? Like what it was that kind of like childhood discovery. I still ride or die for the third one. I've always loved it. It's a huge part of my childhood. Um, I particularly think the original holds up, and I again have a huge affinity for the third one. Uh, the series is just magic, dude. If you're a hardcore fanboy, like
Right. I
it's
heard it
the show
was like that if you
as
weren't a fan.
well,
So it's
and
like,
that's the thing is like if you don't take the original trilogy as seriously as me and Gavin do, for instance, the show will like make you want to, but also do it in such a fun, winking, knowing
yeah,
way. That's the thing is the show is very like self-aware at the same time.
yeah.
But we just sat there and watched the first season in awe. I crushed the entire first season in a day. I just sat and watched it because I was like, I can't, but this has no right to be as
Could be
good as
this
it
good.
is. Why? How did they do this?
How did YouTube get the rights to this?
That too. That I mean, that's
Yeah,
what scared me off it in the first place. And then, cool on YouTube for being like, hey, we don't want to do more, but like you can shop it around. And
yeah.
then thank you to
Of
Netflix for
course,
keeping it
somebody's gonna
going.
pick it up.
But yeah. Uh, but yeah, it is literally every time we watch it, it's just like this is the show we would make if somebody let us like
Yeah,
have access to this IP. Like every choice they make is just so it's so great. Um, and again, it takes the fandom seriously while also poking fun at it, which I absolutely love about it. And it's a fun show. And it's another one that has weirdly translated into this like same thing with Stranger Things. There's all these like high school
yeah,
kids that love that show that have no relation whatsoever to the
yep.
stuff that it's referencing.
Yeah,
But then it naturally makes them want to like hope. I mean, that's what I at least hope for is like,
yeah,
well, hopefully they go and check out all
yeah.
this cool older shit. But yeah, it's still crazy to me that Cobra Kai has continued to go on and they've gotten to a point where they brought back my favorite villain in movie history, Terry Silver, the villain from part three.
Yeah.
They eventually brought him back into the series this past season, and he is like the main villain for this upcoming season, which drops on Friday. And I will just say for our listeners, at some point in the future, Gavin and I will be on mic breaking down the whole season. So look forward to that.
Nostalgia is a powerful tool, man.
It really is, and
It works on me.
I have very
Yeah,
complicated feelings about it, and what it's done to like creativity and like the landscape
yeah,
of mainstream movies and popular culture at large. And Gavin
yeah.
and I have definitely we have very different opinions on that,
Mhm.
which we often get into debates about, mostly on mic, but sometimes not. Um, yeah, I don't. It's because at a certain point, I'm like, but yeah, if we just keep like going back for another bite of this nostalgia apple, like eventually there's nothing left there. And it's
Yeah,
like, I'm like, I kind of want to see the next uh Stranger Things, but it wouldn't
yeah,
be the next Stranger Things. It'd be like, I kind of want to see the next, like, what's the equivalent of like a new John Carpenter movie or
yeah,
like
yeah,
a cool Stephen King movie? Because I'm not a huge fan of like
yeah,
it, for instance. But yeah, it's just like when are we gonna get a fresh take or an original or a thing that becomes the thing that you talk about 20 years from
yeah,
now? Because I just feel like we don't invest enough time in cultivating that stuff anymore. It's just what can we sell to
yeah.
the over 40 crowd and then also hopefully get them to take their kids to it.
Yeah, and also like the industry took a huge hit, over the course of COVID and stuff. So I think like
Absolutely.
everybody's leaning on that safe bet,
Oh,
because
dude. I mean,
you're just
movies
repairing
are
yourself.
an absolute graveyard right now. This is one of the
Yeah,
worst. I mean, this past weekend was the worst weekend I think in modern box office history. It
yeah,
was like insanely bad.
yeah.
Um, I went and saw 3,000 Years of Longing. There
Oh,
was two other people in the theater, um, and I had a great time with it. I
yeah,
honestly, I did not expect the. It's been very like almost split down the middle critically, completely bombed, and uh, definitely not like just a it's Friday night. I want to go see this, but I
yeah,
had a blast with it, dude.
yeah,
It's two actors having a ball,
yep.
impeccable filmmaking. It has a little bit of a third act problem, but I can forgive that.
As most movies often do.
The first hour and 20 minutes of it is so like literally just like mind-blowingly well made that I would rewatch that over and over again and just kind
Yeah,
of pretend like the last 30 minutes doesn't exist and I would be just fine doing that. Huge recommend, honestly.
yeah.
There's not much to see right now. You might as well go see something that is like literally one of the most visually stimulating
Yeah.
movies I've seen
I might
in
do that
like a
tomorrow.
year.
Actually, I don't have class. This entire year has just been like I'm normally a lot better at just at least checking these things out. But between this is my band's busiest year for some
Mhm.
reason, and like I'm
That's
very
awesome, man.
happy and thankful for that. But it's also literally the busiest year of my life because I'm finishing up school.
Right.
So it's just I'm either at work, studying, in class, practicing, playing a show, and it's a lot of that. So that's why like I feel so behind a lot of things. I just like I keep defaulting to
Well, dude,
shows from the early 2000s that I'm like, all right, this makes me feel I can ignore it and it makes me feel comfortable because I feel young again.
there you go. I mean, TV, you could be forgiven for not
Yeah.
not keeping up with the absolute deluge of
Yeah.
shit from this year.
Yeah. It's
But
there's so
but
much
this
great
is a
content. They're all hour-long episodes. I'm like, if I
yes.
get invested, I'm losing hours.
That's very true. But I'm saying this is a great year for you to have pretty much checked out of movies because when you go
Yeah.
back to catch up, there's like three movies you need to see, dude.
Yeah.
The Batman, Top
Yeah.
Gun Maverick, and Nope. Like
Right.
if you saw those, you kind of saw the
Yeah.
movies of this
But
year.
a lot of it, I'm putting off the theater stuff because I want to go, but it's I don't want to go see a movie without my girlfriend that she wants to
Right.
see, and like our schedules never quite line up. And then you realize that in 3 months it's going to be on HBO.
Yeah.
And like I do love the experience of I have absolutely no problem spending the money to go see movies in theaters, but when it comes down to trying to schedule it and like figure out time we can go on top of all of our other responsibilities, I'm like I'm just going to wait, and then to make myself less sad, tell myself I saved money.
Oh yeah, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
you could literally right now rent Nope for $20 on
Yep.
VOD or Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, I
And
think we're
yeah,
probably going to do Nope this weekend. Top Gun, I am disappointed I didn't get to see in theaters.
I'm
It's
sure it's still playing near you,
I'm
honestly.
I'm
I think
sure it
that
is.
movie's
Like,
gonna play through the end of the year, probably.
yeah, I mean,
Like
with the
all of the
amount of like,
theaters near me still have at least 2 to 3 showings a day.
let's
Um,
let's see what Dayton's got going on. I'm sure there's like, oh shit, there's one in 15 minutes. That's funny.
dude, we can wrap
Yeah,
this up. um,
I'm too exhausted, but
I
just
I
knowing that it's out there at these times, this is my favorite. Like this and like 9 a.m. matinees are my favorite times to go
same.
because it's just
I
like,
usually like
yeah.
to do a weeknight last
Mhm.
showing of the night, or
Yep.
I like to go early in the day when there's nobody there as well.
There was an
Uh,
unnamed cinema chain that I, again, shall remain nameless, that like didn't post anybody for a long time. You just walked
you
in,
know,
like bought popcorn at like 10:30. They just assumed that you bought a ticket online. So that was my movie pass. It was for like an entire year. I was
nice.
just going to see
Oh
saw
man,
yeah, I saw Toy Story 2, like Toy Story 4 like 2 times for free. Just walking on
dude,
in.
I should try that sometime. Like, yeah, dude, I already scanned in my ticket. Like, just
Yeah.
show them an old Fandango on my phone.
That's a dude. I had one up just in case. It was
Yeah.
like, nope, nobody asked. So
Uh, so yeah, 3,000 Years of Longing. Cobra Kai's out on Friday. I forget what the Friday movie release is.
I
I
didn't
don't
hear
think
anything
anything I was
big.
super excited about. So, but
Yeah, it's
right around the corner, it will soon enough be October and Arctober
yeah.
on this network, and we'll be doing all horror content, so you can look forward to that.
My
Uh,
girlfriend is a huge horror buff, so I've been getting more into
dude,
seeing because it was
if
a
she
hidden
would be
genre.
up for joining us on a 3-person pod, that would
Oh
be
yeah, she definitely would. She has way more situational knowledge about it than I do. Because I recently, it was like a genre I wasn't. It just wasn't my wheelhouse, but I just wasn't watching the right movies.
okay.
And then yeah.
Call me crazy. Top 5 scary hotel movies with most of Scary Hotel, or 2 members of Scary Hotel.
Dude, I could totally do that.
Okay, well, we'll have both of you on, and if any of
Yeah,
the other band members want to join, but yeah, top 5 Scary Hotel movies with Scary Hotel.
yeah, dude, that'd be fun. I'm so stoked for like September 1st. My Halloween decorations are going up because I need something right now. And I'm just like, that's it.
Absolutely.
Plus, Ohio gets a really nice autumn. So,
Hell yeah. I've been actively trying to, like, I'm just if I come across a horror movie, I'm like, all right, I got the itch, but like add it to the watch list, and
yeah,
we're just gonna save it for October.
yeah.
But I've been in an animation mood
Mhm.
because of Primal, of course. So I've been doing some Miyazaki. I rewatched Nausicaa,
Yeah.
rewatched Castle in the Sky. I watched Ponyo for the first time. I'd never seen it.
Oh, really?
Absolutely magical. Loved
Yeah.
it.
That
It was
one's delightful.
great. Um, yeah. So that's what I've been doing recently. And also Blank Check, one of my favorite podcasts. They're covering Kubrick right now. So I'm sequentially rewatching with them. And I had never seen Spartacus start to finish, all 3 hours and 15 minutes of it. So I did that yesterday.
Right. I think that's like box you have to check if you run a film podcast.
It's definitely, I mean, it is one of those like canonical, like, yeah, I probably should have seen it by now, especially since he is my favorite director of all time. Probably should have checked it out. But that's what was fun about this. There's literally two in the filmography I'd never seen, Killer's Kiss and Spartacus. And I knocked them out now. And now they're going forward with things I've seen like a billion times. But I am going to rewatch as they go through week to week. So Lolita is next week. Yeah. So
exciting times. Bring some hankies.
Yeah. All right, man. Anything else you'd like to chat? How long we've been going? Yep, the usual, about 45. Okay. Yeah, I guess until the hopefully exciting and hopefully not as deadly conclusion of the Colossus saga next week. For Primal Podcast, I have been Noah.
I'm Mikey.
And we thank you very much for listening. Oh, plugs. Excuse me.
That's right.
So I have a new album coming out on Friday, September the 2nd. It's called Flowerhead. You can find that on all the major music services. Again, I go by nARK. That's lowercase n, all caps ARK. And it's also exciting and terrifying, and I don't know if I want to make it public, but I'm going to do it anyways. September 10th at Elliott Borough Mini Bar, I will be playing my first ever live set.
Man.
Show starts at 7. I probably go on sometime around 8:30 or 9. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So if you're in the Charleston area, come by, but please don't, because I'm terrified, and I want this to be as low key as possible. I'm literally not inviting like any friends or family. Just like don't come.
Please, that's a good way to get your first one under the water.
Yeah, dude. I genuinely am like, I got to play a 30-minute set in the midst of some other guys who are doing like singer-songwritery stuff, and then I'm just gonna come in as the like way to break up the set a little bit, and then because it's like they're each going to play solo and then they're going to play together on the back end, and then I might join them for a jam on the back end. So like a Crosby, Stills, Nash, and like maybe Young's not there that night kind of thing. It's gonna be like a 3-man thing. I don't know.
It's a good way to do it. There's a interesting philosophy when I was in the Air Force. They have this exercise called Red Flag out in Nevada, and the idea is you remind me of this because we were talking about Top Gun. Like, if a fighter pilot, like a brand new fighter pilot, survives his or her first 10 sorties, then they have a 98% chance of surviving the rest of their career. So they use that exercise to give new pilots their first 10 sorties. So this is the best way to do it, honestly. Like, I know everyone wants to come and see you, but like, get your first couple out, and then once you get comfortable, that's when you start hyping it up.
Yeah, exactly. I do not want a room full of people that I know to be party to possibly me just like literally falling on my face. But again, dude, it's all, I'll probably talk to you more about it off mic, but we'll see how it goes, and I'll let you know. But I'm actively building my 30-minute set right now. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Anyways, if you're in the Charleston area, please don't come. But it is September 10th at Elliott Borough Mini Bar from 7 to 10. I'll be playing at some point in there. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week with the Colossus Part 2. This has been Primal Pod and Cast. Thank you for listening.